Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello, everybody. My gosh, I'm so glad that you're here with me again today for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. We bring conversations and strategies to really live life more consciously with your time, with your money, with life. And today we're going to be diving into how do you be more conscious in probably the most central part of every one of our lives, and that is our relationships. How do you be more conscious, more present? We're living in such a distracted world. Our attention is a commodity today. So being present, being conscious about how you're relating to and with other human beings, and particularly those closest to you, your spouse, your partner, your children, your family unit, seems to be getting more and more challenging as our world progresses. I sometimes say that the pace of technology has outpaced the pace of our neurological and psychological development. So that's the challenge that we're living with today. And I'm excited to dive into this notion of what does it take to live consciously in relationships with somebody who's really a renowned expert in it. My friend and recent acquaintance, we got together in New York at a conference where we both spoke recently, Dr. Debra Castaldo. She's a nationally recognized relationship expert with more than 35 years experience. She has a passion for helping others find love, stay in love well, and then, yes, even return to love when love has been breached. So she is the author of four books, and her latest that she just released recently is the Return to Love Playbook. She's been featured as a relationship expert on various programs on CNN, NBC, ABC, and CBS, and she's currently a regular contributor on a nationally syndicated show called Living Abundantly with Sarah Vie. She's also the host of Love Notes with Dr. Deb. It's a show and podcast that airs on 95.3 WCHE. So there you have it, Dr. Deb. It's lovely to see you again. I so enjoyed spending time with you, meeting you in New York at the conference and expo that we were both speaking at. Lovely. And I think I shared with you then that I have a particular interest in this because I've just completed creating a new course called How to Save Your Marriage Without Losing Your Mind. I have books on
challenge.
Yeah, I have books on time and dealing with money, dealing with change. And so I thought I needed to finish out kind of all the big hot spots. And so I did a course on relationships. So welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm
glad that we bumped into each other now. About a month, I think.
Likewise. So take a minute now and tell people a little bit more about yourself. You just wrote this book, A Return to Love Playbook. What's the backstory of that and your backstory that leads you to be a marriage and relationship expert?
Yes. Well, thank you. There's a personal journey and a professional journey. So the professional journey, I started out working with children in protective services and also foster care and adoption and really families with neglect and abuse in the background. And after a number of years of doing that, decided that I really wanted to work more with the family unit, and then went to family therapy training, and then really narrowed my focus to it really is the couple where we need to break in and change destructive, unhealthy patterns. So we stop this transmission of dysfunction from generation to generation. And so for the last 2 decades of my career, I've mainly been focused on couples therapy and helping couples to save their marriages and relationships when they wish to do that, And of course, there's a high level of divorce that's been continuing for more than half a century. And so a lot of people are in second marriages or single at older ages. And also the last year, there's been so much publicized about gray divorce.
Yeah.
People who are divorcing now in the 50s, 60s, and even 70s. So we have an epidemic of people not having very good relationship skills. So that's where my focus is, and that's where the book came from. But I also have my own personal journey of a very young marriage at age 22 to my first relationship, who I met at 19. And by 35, I really knew that was not working at all. I didn't know what I was looking for at age 19 or 22. So I divorced at midlife. And then it's been a journey since then of several significant relationships and several periods of time on my own. I like to say with myself. I don't like to use the word alone because it's a journey with myself and my own growth. And have been through infertility myself and, other breakups since the divorce. So it's really a passion of mine of healthy relationships that are fulfilling and, help people to be resilient and also keeping their intimacy alive and well also.
Beautiful. You used an interesting phrase that I want to pick up on. You said you're passionate about helping people have healthy relationship skills.
Yes.
And I think for your average thinker or listener of about relationships, they don't necessarily think about that notion that there are skills that help relationships be more harmonious, to be more peaceful, to not end up, going down rabbit holes and tunnels of fights and hurt feelings and stonewalling and, all the things that people get into, being right, trying to prove your point, So let's go there a little bit, Deb. What do you see as the primary relationship skills, and what ones do you see as largely missing when couples end up coming to you for help?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think people are not interacting out of skill. They are acting unconsciously
Right. They're
out
unconscious.
of trauma and damage from, childhood usually, and then other relationships maybe that have predated the present one where there's now an accumulation of damage and destructive patterns. So that's number one. We're not acting out of skills. And I think most of us don't grow up learning these kinds of skills of really productive communication. And I do a lot with solution-focused therapy. So I'm all about helping the couple to become a team of solution building teammates.
Yeah.
Most of us don't know how to do that. I certainly didn't earlier in life.
Yeah.
So
It does
yes,
take something to want to be a teammate with another person, because here's what I think. I'll be curious your thoughts about this. When people are unconscious, not present to my kind of the inner workings of my psychology, my consciousness, my beliefs, my hurts, my wounds, my traumas, when I can't own what's my operating system, I'm constantly just coming at the relationship with unmet need, with fears and projections and ego defenses leading. Like that's what's leading the charge in the relationship. And until people start looking within, that the relationship isn't going to solve, the angst that you feel about life. Your relationship's not, yes, you'll have that euphoria, for anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half, maybe 6 to 18 months. But eventually it fades, right? And people are, again, left with themselves. So talk to me about that. What do you see that people lead with? Because, yeah, they're coming at this just with their own psychological wounds rather than a sense of presence and clarity about who they are and what's happening in their relationship.
Well, I agree with exactly what you said. I think people are looking outside to the other person to fill them up. And that there's the idea there's going to be this perfect God or goddess that's going to meet every single need that I have. And they're not looking within to say, what am I accountable for? what am I bringing into this? And no person is going to be able to fill up every need of someone else.
Yeah.
And I've been talking a lot with colleagues recently about self-love as part of the foundation of good relationships also, because if you're not in a good place with yourself and then you're coming from damage to this other person has to meet everything I need and want, and when you get disappointed, then this is where many people are running off to the internet to find other people. And now we have access to so many people, our grade school boyfriend or girlfriend, you can find them now. And running off and not doing the work of, you're most likely going to repeat this with the next partner if you do give up so soon. So, the damage is there and people will keep repeating and repeating. And as you well know, then they'll come to therapy and say, I just thought if I found another person, everything would be different. And surprise, surprise, they're in the same relationship again with a different person.
Yeah.
So,
The epic quote by John Kabat-Zinn, wherever you go, there you are.
there you are. Yeah.
Wherever you go, there you are. So one relationship, you end up hurt and frustrated and unmet needs, and they just don't get me. When the reality is that person hasn't done the work to get themselves, to understand themselves. And, interesting you use this notion of self-love. We toss that phrase around a lot in consciousness circles or therapy or coaching circles. How are you using that? And how does self-love help the marriage relationship be more harmonious?
Yeah. Well, I think, it means a lot of things, boundaries, values. What are you choosing? Now, also, the attraction to others is also unconscious very deeply. So, and we all do it. We all kind of we're looking for that which was familiar from childhood. And we all get attracted to some version of that, mother, father, or both, or some mixture of that. So I think, doing the work to think about what are your values? What are you looking for? And I'm sure too, I often have people that come in, and even in the older age ranges, that they're not, teenagers anymore. And I'll ask them, what are the qualities that you think you want? And they'll say, well, I want someone that's funny and good looking enough and that likes adventure. And, I have to say to them, those are great, but, those aren't the qualities that last over time. You have to think of other deeper qualities. Am I with someone who is a giver? Am I with someone who has narcissistic qualities? What am I expecting in terms of fulfillment? So I think setting those values and boundaries for yourself and getting more conscious of who you're getting attracted to, that's the foundation of self-love. And I think caring for yourself to heal this damage that we talk about, and then to go when you are in the market or hoping a relationship will find you, as I'm a big believer of not searching desperately for love. Be your best self, love yourself, keep making yourself the best person you can be. And I also say, be the partner that you would like to have. Don't be looking for it outside. And I think that's the foundation of self-love that is so critical to then you can be a healthy partner with that person.
One of the first things you said when talking about self-love was boundaries. And I find that a really interesting and complex thing for couples often, that, where is it okay to say no? Where is it okay to say that's not what I want, or that's not okay with me? And I think about one of the foundations of self-love as being self-respect. And, respecting yourself enough to not have to just give up the entirety of your values, your wishes, your desires, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, because of what your spouse wants or what your partner wants in that. And I think that sense of self-respect and self-love, they go hand in hand. And when you have both of them, I love myself enough to not allow myself to be treated that way. And I respect myself enough to hold to my values, my boundaries, regardless of what you want. My spouse and I have an interesting relationship rule, and it's whoever feels the strongest about something wins.
Mm.
So, and people say, well, how do you know? But like, you kind of just know. And the reason that we came up with that rule is that we got to a point where we recognized we were more committed to our happiness as a couple and to each other's happiness than we were to being right or getting our way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's played out in all kinds of ways with, decisions about trips and travel and family plans and home renovations and,
Absolutely. Yeah. That is so critical. 2 points that you're making. First of all, the idea of self-respect, and then I work a lot with respect in the couple because I find a lot of times when people are together a while, as you say, when that's 6 months to 18 months or 2 years, where the masks come off.
Yeah.
And then I often find that the values go down, the standards go down, and people don't treat each other as well as they treat people elsewhere in their life. I always say to people, would you treat a friend or talk to a friend the way you're talking to your partner? So transferring that into respect for the other, I think, is critical. And then, the compromise issue that you just raised. So much I'd like to unpack about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I say to people, what can you let go of and really think, is this worth hurting your partner? How important is this? Are you going to remember it in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 weeks? And what price are you going to pay if, you persist in that and you're not willing to be giving to each other? I'll give you just a very quick example because it's fresh in my mind. I had a couple recently where the wife was extremely afraid of her husband's driving very, very fast and zigzagging. And the fellow had a really hard time at first, just saying, I am so sorry that you're afraid, and let me really take care of that and let me bring my speed down. And he couldn't do it. He was explaining, and this is why it's important.
Justifying it, yeah.
Yeah, justifying and rationalizing and defending and explaining, which when I work with couples, I always tell them to get rid of explaining, excusing, and rationalizing, because then you just undid your apology. But, I find, being in that giving place of when your partner is hurt, to be able to say, now, what can I give? And why would I be fighting for like a position of right or wrong or true or false? But that again comes from the self-love. If you feel like, well, I'm entitled to have every need met, then I'm not going to give up anything to this partner. And that's where people get into trouble.
Yeah, but I don't consider that self-love. I consider that kind of a sense of narcissism.
Yes.
I have to have my every need met. I mean, the reality is in long-term relationships, you don't get every need met by your partner, which is that 18 to 2 year window of when things start to break apart. That's what happens, that people start realizing or having the experience of this person doesn't fulfill me the way I need to be fulfilled. This person doesn't give me everything I want and need. And it's interesting because I think what people don't recognize is that there is no solution out here, whether it's the job or the money or the driving fast or the sexy car or the girl, the relationship. There's nothing out here that will fundamentally sustain a sense of happiness, peace, and contentment in here, which is why I'm so committed to conscious living.
Yeah.
The only thing that will sustain a sense of well-being and happiness and peace and contentment and groundedness is knowing and loving yourself, recognizing that your thoughts are just your thoughts.
They're not reality. They're not.
Yeah, they're not some capital T truth. That's just my current neurological processing based on my past and my projections. And when you're not conscious of all of that, you literally believe everything you think. And that's where couples go down this rabbit hole of she's such a, or he, he's this, or she's that. And it can be absolutely exhausting. So I think, I always say that I have so many different topics that I teach on because fundamentally I teach consciousness. And when it is the answer to everything. Relationships won't get healthy until people awaken to their own thoughts and behaviors and patterns.
Yeah. And instead of the looking outside, I like to sometimes call it conscious loving, or I also call it cherishing. But being aware of what am I bringing into this? And I'll give a little tip. I like to end my sessions with couples with asking each one, both, what are you willing to give to your partner? And then what is one thing that you would like to request from them? So, and I say, I am not a believer in fighting or arguing. I know there's some therapists who say you have to have fighting to have a healthy relationship. And
I'm not in that camp at all.
I am not at all. I'm totally out of that camp because what it says to me is if there's fighting or arguing, first of all, the listening has broken down. They're not listening to each other, really tuned in, and then they're not giving. And they're not building solutions together. They're fighting for a position instead of fighting for us and we and what we can give.
Yeah. And what we know neurologically is through mirror neurons and co-regulation that when one person escalates and the other person escalates more, that just creates a negative spiral of escalation.
Yeah, I think of a phrase that I love, and it's kind of funny, from one of my teachers, Terry Real, who's a very acclaimed couples therapist. And he talks about this choosing unconsciously the partner that is going to trigger the worst things in us. We all do it. And he says, we all have a knack for choosing the one person who's able to stick a burning spear in our eye. So,
wow.
I know. But I mean, we all choose that person, and yet having that partner is a chance to heal that. I know, the famous couples therapists, the Gottmans, talk about a partner is a chance to heal those wounds. And yes, we all do pick the person that's going to trigger all of this stuff. And like we've been saying this whole time, they're not going to be a magical God or goddess to fulfill you up. They're going to bring out the worst. You're going to bring out the worst in each other. And yet, what do you do then? Do you just run off to divorce court and
the next one, right? Go to the next one, go to the next one.
Or do you do the work? And I always say to people, you know what? It's important for you to do this work, whether you stay together or not.
Right. It's the work that's important. You used the phrase that I want to come back to. I love the phrase, actually. You talked about conscious loving. Do you mind saying more about that and defining it a little bit and what that means to you?
Well, when couples come into me, almost all of them are unconsciously acting and interacting in their relationships. And it does come from this trauma, usually from childhood and other relationships. So they're not conscious of what they're doing and why and what it's repeating. So we have to wake up that consciousness to help them understand their history and where these patterns come from. And then you have to go more than that, though. You can't just become aware and have insight and consciousness. Then you have to work to change the patterns and change your behavior and your interactions with your partner. So I think that's a huge piece of work in couples therapy, is the shift from unconscious, acting out, kind of impulsive, triggered behavior to very conscious of who am I? What do I bring into this? What have I chosen? And what patterns do I come from that multi-generationally, I call it the multi-generational curses that need to be broken. So the present generation and the next generations can go on in a healthier way. So I think conscious of what you bring and who you are and then how you act in a relationship is like step number one.
Yeah.
When it comes to healing.
Yeah, I think, people in relationship, and I'm in one, I've been married with my spouse for 25 years. And in the early phases, it is so much about egoic needs and need fulfillment and protecting, trying to control how the relationship goes, trying to hold on to the relationship, that sense of clinging and desperation, and any crack in that sense of this is the perfect partner can cause such a spiral of difficulty in the relationship, instead of seeing it as just, this is what happens. Long-term relationships take work and communication.
And it's really a dilemma because you're getting to, the heart of why do we couple up anyway? The need for attachment, bonding, security, and
Love
is at the top of our humanness. And yet that need, when we don't have it, and if we are acting out of despair, and I think this is where people get into trouble too, if they've been on their own for a while and someone comes along and they don't discern, is this someone that, is a good match for me, and what are they bringing? I think many, many people leap in, and, you see it in the celebrity world. Oh my gosh. I did a lot of commenting on celebrity relationships in the last couple of years, but when you see how, they're breaking up and divorcing, and a week later, a lot of these celebrities, they have a new relationship, and it's like an epidemic of, not taking the time to discern what's going on, that I keep attracting the same thing.
Well, and that I keep doing the same thing. I attract the same thing, and then I repeat my patterns that are so unhealthy. I will say that I was very blessed to my current spouse, really had that sense of patience and ability to help me through some of those hard places when I started repeating those patterns from my past. And was blessed through couples therapy and our own individual therapy. We were really able to grow together and start understanding our past and our need fulfillment. And so it's really been a beautiful process together. What do you think? Do you have more to say about that?
Yeah, I think, we talked about self-love and self-growth, and I think you and I are on the same page about your own spiritual growth too. And, I believe that's a lifelong process of every day. How can I grow a little more? How can I be a better person? How can I be more in touch with my spirituality? But yet then when you're not doing that, when you're not focused on growth, it's hard to be in that place of, as I said, using discernment, so you're not repeating the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
I'm on a bit of a journey because I've been with myself for a little while now, after a few significant relationships after divorce 30 years ago. And now I say I think I'm being shown up the food chain in dating. So I say, I've had a few new people come in over the last few years, and I meditating and praying, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting this now. It's like, here's some qualities, and then a new person will come in and I'll be like, oh, here's some other qualities. And a friend of mine said to me, it's like God or the angels are saying to you, like this, but better. And then and then when they bring you better, they're like this, but better. And that's what's been going on with me. So it's actually been a fun time of seeing that I think growth is taking place in, who's coming into my life, which is nice.
Yeah. I think about how much I've grown and changed in the 25 years of being with my spouse. Yeah. And, and we've been through so much together. And so I think, Deb, what I'd like to do is maybe for you and I to play a little relationship tip ping pong. Okay. Let's give let's do 6. We'll do 3 each. You can start, and so we're talking a lot about you need to know yourself, you need self-respect, self-worth, but we have to understand ourselves. But let's get into some of what practical things can people do that will improve their relationship skills, their conscious loving ability. So let's just do a little, relationship tip ping pong. You do one, and then I'll do one. We'll do 6 together.
Sure. So I'll start with the first one that's in my book, because my book is a playbook. I don't like to call it a workbook.
I love that.
So there's a task in each chapter, at least one task, and sometimes more. So we start with appreciation. So I find a lot of people lose that after time. They're not showing appreciation. They're not verbalizing. And we know the mind and the unconscious opens up when it hears a compliment. So that's step number 1 is, are you laying a foundation of I really appreciate you when you do such and such, or
Yeah.
a compliment of I'm proud of you. So I'll give that as my number one tip.
All right. Yeah. Appreciation. Yeah. Every evening when we sit down to dinner, my spouse usually does the cooking, and I always say, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you made dinner for us tonight. So we have that. And we're very appreciative of each other. So I do think that's one of the things that we brought into our relationship that has helped. All right. I will add to that. I say yes to that one. And I
Okay.
will add, I think it's, I think it's really important that yours and your partner's fundamental values of
Uh-huh.
of what's important to each of you about relationships, about money, about how you spend your time, about what you want for your kids, to like actually sit down together and decide, maybe even separately, like these are my 5 kind of most important values that I want to bring to our family or to our relationship. Do it separately and then come to compare them. How similar are they? I had a partner before I got married, 26, 27 years ago, before I was with my current spouse. And wasn't a spouse before, my only spouse. Anyway, and it was a wonderful relationship, and we had so much fun together, and there was a lot of attraction, a lot of juice, a lot of energy, but our values were really different. Our values were really different. Like I'm kind of a country person. I like nature and being outside. And, my partner was very much a city person and likes, the rough and tough kind of city life. And, I'm really very kind and soft with people. And, my partner was very abrupt and like get my way. And it just rubbed me the wrong way. And my current spouse is very, just chill and, very much rural mentality, rural lifestyle, comfortable, nature comfortable. Anyway, so I would say really think about what are your values, write them down separately, come together to compare them, and then choose what values you're going to found your relationship on.
Yeah. I would say yes to that one, and I will just add a little bit to it.
Yeah.
I think it's important for couples to make agreements. So
Yes. Wait, that's my next one.
darn.
You just, I know that's great.
I'm going
This is
ahead.
first. Now I need to come up with another one, but go ahead. Make agreements.
I'll attach it to what you just said, so then you can still have it. We'll
All right.
bring it
Okay,
back
good.
to you. But I find so many couples, they might discuss it, but then they're not landing on any agreement. And for me, they don't have to be exactly the same. And in some cases, they may have a big difference, but somehow they make it work for them.
Yeah.
Like I just did a segment on the show that I do, Living Abundantly, on courageous conversations with couples around money and how money is a taboo subject along with sex.
Very tough one. Yeah.
And we talked about, why is that? There's shame and all kinds of things attached to money. But I have seen couples who have very different perspectives about how to handle things financially, and it works for them. Like some couples, everybody wants to know everything about who's spending what, and maybe they'll sit down and be talking about that. I've had some couples where one like does most of the big purchasing and they don't care. The other partner doesn't care if they buy a car or a couch or whatever, and it works for them. So
Yeah.
I think are you making agreements that work for you?
Right.
As long as you're not harming yourself or someone else, that's my big guideline for couples.
All right. So that's your next one. So we've got make agreements, show gratitude and appreciation, know each other's values. And so is it back to me? Are we over my part?
Want me to suggest one?
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was your one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Or you want to do?
Yeah, I'll go so I don't forget it. It's in my mind. I want to say so mine, and then I'll give it back to you for your last one because we need to wrap up here. I will add to it that I think it's super important for couples to speak from their own perspective. I used to say to an old partner of mine, you don't get to define my reality. You don't get to tell me how I am or how I feel or how I think. So, when there's an upset, speak from here's what I'm seeing here. Here's what my experience is. When you use that tone of voice, it feels to me like you're being condescending. That's how I'm experiencing it versus you're so condescending, you're always putting me down.
Yes.
Because that person may be like, no, I'm really not. I'm just saying it like it is, So speaking from the I perspective, here's how I see it. Here's how I'm experiencing it. Can you help me understand this better? You're saying that's not your intention. Great, thanks. Can you help me understand this better? So the I perspective, speaking from the I perspective, and being curious and open to what your partner's perspective is.
Well, that's the shift that, communicating from there rather than you always, you never, and you're not giving me this and you're not giving me that. You say, I'm really in agreement with, say what's bothering you, say what you feel, and then say what you want.
Yeah, yes.
And it's the other person's job to respond and validate and give something back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot easier than people make it.
Yeah.
So do I have one ping pong?
Yes, one more. Go ahead. We'll let you wrap up.
Okay. So I'm going to land on the topic that I champion, which is healthy intimacy, non-sexual and sexual touch, and healthy sexuality, because this is an epidemic too. When couples have been together a long time, they let go of it. They say to me, we're too tired. We don't need that anymore. It's boring. We have kids. We're too old. And this is such a part of the foundation of the emotional attachment and bonding and the energy. And it's so human that we all need touch. We all need hugging. We all need holding. So I'm a big advocate of do not let that go. I don't care if you're 70, 80, 90, or 100.
Yeah, go to sleep cuddling each other.
Absolutely.
Wake up in the morning and lay on your shoulder, on your partner's shoulder for 10 minutes before you get up. Yeah, it is a lovely, lovely part of being in relationship, is having that sense of physical containment and touch. Even taking a walk arm in arm, holding hands, driving in the car.
Absolutely.
Wonderful ways. And that's a way of regulating your nervous system also.
Oh my goodness, the benefits of it.
Benefits.
One of my favorite tips is to tell couples to commit to skin-to-skin holding twice a week with no expectation
of sex. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hold, be together, fall asleep, have fun, laugh, talk, whatever you want to do.
Sounds lovely.
That attachment bonding that is really, the foundation of what we all need.
Naked movie night. I'm all in.
Now, so hopefully at home, right?
At home, yes. Naked movie night at home. Netflix,
Yes.
not out at the cinema. Well, Deb, this has been fun and lovely. I always enjoy spending time with you. I'm so glad that we met in New York ago. And thank you for being on the show. People are going to want to reach out to you, hear about your books, and learn more. Where's the best place for people to find you?
So my website is www.thedrdeb.com. It's THEDRDEB, all one word. And then I'm all over social media, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, mostly under The Dr. Deb, but also Debra Castaldo, too.
Beautiful. So awesome. You're really making such a difference in our troubled and harried world of people having a safe place with you to go and be able to talk about how to make their love last. So thank you for being here with us on the Conscious Living Podcast.
Back at you on that, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course.